Okay, so we're diving into industrial equipment in Kazakhstan. A market, that's definitely got potential.
Oh, yeah.
But
Pay
this
attention.
could be a little tricky
Absolutely.
to figure out
It
how to
is.
get your foot in the door.
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a walk in the park, right? You can't just show up and say,
Right.
hey, look at my great equipment.
Buy my stuff.
It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
What's so fascinating about Kazakhstan is they're on this fast track of growth, industrial growth.
Yeah?
And the government's really pushing for foreign investment, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But the catch is they're very particular about how they do things, their standards and their business practices.
Yeah, and that brings us to the first big hurdle in your research, and that's certification.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about the,
Yep.
typical international standards you might be used to.
Right.
We're talking about GOES-T, right?
Exactly.
So tell me, is this just a quick kind of checkbox,
Oh, no, not at all.
kind of thing?
GOEST it's deep. It impacts everything from the
Right.
way your equipment's built to the paperwork.
Wow.
And I think people really underestimate how much time and energy it takes to get this GOES-T certification.
Yeah.
We're talking months, not weeks, with a
Wow.
lot of back and forth.
I actually saw in your research there was this company
Oh,
that
yeah.
lost a major deal because their, quote, took too long.
Happens all the time.
And while they were, stuck in this certification limbo,
Yeah.
the market moved on.
They lost their window.
Yeah.
And someone else got the deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speed is everything.
So speed seems to be key. And how can they adapt to that? What can they do?
I think partnerships are essential.
Okay.
Local partners
Local partners. Okay.
who know the Kazakh market, they can help you cut through all that red tape, all the bureaucracy
Right.
and the paperwork, even connect you with the right people.
The decision makers.
Yeah.
It's not just about filling out forms. It's about understanding how business is done in Kazakhstan.
So it's understanding the culture,
Yes. The culture.
the rhythm of
The rhythm of business.
business there.
In some cultures, you take your time, you craft this perfect proposal.
Right.
In Kazakhstan, they value speed, decisiveness.
So for someone entering this market, what would you say is like the first move? What should they do first?
You got to accept that this GOES-T certification, that's non-negotiable.
Right.
That's happening.
Yeah.
So start early.
Start early.
Find those good local partners.
Mm-mm.
They can guide you.
Yeah.
And be prepared to, maybe adjust your timeline.
Right.
Adjust your expectations.
Mm.
It's a different game.
Different playing field.
Agility is key.
All right, so speaking of different playing fields, there's this other aspect we got to talk about, and it's a little sensitive.
Yeah.
And you touched on this in your research, hidden corruption.
Right.
So can you shed some light on what that means? How should companies even approach this?
Okay, this is where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
We're not talking about outright bribery.
Right.
This is more about understanding what's not written down.
Okay.
Those little favors or, unofficial fees that can kind of,
Grease the wheels.
yeah, grease the wheels a little bit.
Okay, so how do you play the game, so to speak, without compromising your ethics?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no easy answer.
Right.
But one thing I'll say is having a strong local compliance officer,
Okay.
someone who really gets the landscape,
Yeah.
they can help you navigate those gray areas.
So it's about being culturally aware,
Mm-hmm.
respecting the customs, but at the same time,
Not losing yourself.
holding on to your own moral compass. It's kind of finding that sweet spot.
That's it. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And often building those relationships based on trust, mutual respect, that can actually help you avoid some of those sticky situations in the first place.
Which just kind of brings us back to those local partners, right?
Absolutely.
They're not just facilitators.
Yeah.
They're your guides, your interpreters.
Yeah, they're your bridge to success.
Yeah.
It all comes down to having people you trust,
Right.
people who are your eyes and ears on the ground
Mm-hmm.
to help you strike that balance, playing by the rules, but actually getting things done.
It sounds like a bit of a balancing act, to be honest.
It is.
But for those who are willing to put in the work
Oh, yeah.
and learn the ropes,
The rewards are there.
the rewards are there in Kazakhstan.
Big time. It's a dynamic market. It's always moving.
Right.
And if you can be agile, adaptable, and honestly a little bit brave,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity.
So we've covered some really, important ground here, but there's still so much to unpack. So next up, we're going to dive into actually getting your equipment into this vast country.
The logistics.
The logistics, the people, the Kazakh workforce.
Whole 9 yards.
Let's get into it.
All right, so we talked about those local partners and, all that, navigating those, the certification, the unwritten rules of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't forget about just how big this country is.
You're talking logistics.
Logistics.
Getting those massive pieces of equipment.
Yeah, from point A to point B.
Across, multiple time zones.
Exactly, Kazakhstan. It's landlocked, but it's huge.
Right.
And even though the infrastructure is getting better, it can still be a real headache, especially when you're dealing with heavy cargo.
I actually saw this phrase in my research.
Oh, yeah.
The tyranny of distance.
I like that.
Yeah, it kind of captures
It's perfect.
those hurdles
It really does.
that companies face.
It sums it up perfectly.
So your equipment, let's say it's finally cleared customs, it's certified,
Yeah.
it's ready to go, but now it has to travel hundreds, maybe thousands of kilometers.
Oh, yeah.
To some, remote mine.
Right. To the middle of nowhere.
Oil field, yeah. And we're not talking about, smooth sailing on a perfect highway. Right?
Not always. No, you might be dealing with old rail lines, roads that need some work. Maybe you even need some, specialized trucks, those heavy haul trucks.
Yeah.
And all that just adds time and money.
So how do companies tackle this? Like, is there some kind of secret weapon?
You guessed it.
Local partners.
Local partners, they know the routes,
Right.
they know how to get permits, and they have those connections to speed things up when you need it.
So it's about finding the right partner.
Yeah, the one with the right experience.
With the right expertise.
Exactly.
So like putting together your A-team
I like that analogy, yeah.
for Kazakhstan.
Your A-team for the Kazakh market.
So you've got your A-team, the equipment's there, you're ready to roll.
Right.
What about the people who are going to operate it, maintain it?
The human element.
The people?
Can't forget about the people, and that's a challenge everywhere, right?
Everywhere, yeah.
Finding good people, skilled labor. Kazakhstan, no different.
And I saw in the research there's a potential skills gap.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Some of those technical fields. So how does that impact these foreign companies?
It can be a major roadblock.
Right.
You can have the best equipment in the world, but if you don't have the people who know how to use it,
Yeah.
it's not going to do you any good.
So what are companies doing about this?
Yeah.
Are they bringing their own people in?
Some do, especially for those really specialized jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of companies are realizing it's better to invest in local talent.
Okay.
They're partnering with schools, offering training programs,
Mm-hmm.
apprenticeships to build up that skilled workforce.
So it's win-win.
Exactly.
They get the skilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
Kazakhstan gets the knowledge transfer.
The knowledge transfer.
It's
A
great.
good system.
And it's not just technical skills, right?
No, it's also things like safety protocols, quality control, environmental stuff.
Because it's about building a sustainable operation, right?
Sustainably, yeah.
That benefits both the company
Long term.
and the community. And that brings us to another part of doing business in Kazakhstan, the cultural dynamics.
The cultural side.
You mentioned earlier that cultural sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that foreign companies really need to be aware of?
Well, first, you got to understand that Kazakhstan has this rich history,
Right.
strong national identity,
Yeah.
and they have this really cool blend of Eastern and Western influences.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, definitely not. You can't just bring your playbook from somewhere else
Right.
and expect it to work in Kazakhstan.
You got to adapt.
Adapt, there's a certain way they do things,
Right.
etiquette, building relationships, respect for tradition.
Can you give me some concrete examples? Like, what are some things that might trip someone up?
Well, for example, personal relationships are huge in Kazakh business culture.
Okay.
It's not just about the contract.
Right.
It's about building trust, getting to know people.
So those informal meetings, having tea,
That's important.
conversation, that's not just
It's not just being polite.
a social nicety.
It's part of doing business.
It's part of the process.
It's showing respect.
Right.
Getting to know your partners on a personal level.
Right. Building that relationship
Building that foundation.
before you even get to.
Before you even talk numbers.
Yeah. So patience is a virtue here.
Patience is key. Don't expect to rush into a deal.
Right.
Take your time.
Build that relationship.
Show them that you're serious about a long-term partnership.
It's that dance between respecting the customs
Yes.
and
Yeah,
achieving your objectives.
that's a great way to put it.
And learning the language probably helps too, right?
Oh, for sure. Even if you have a translator, just knowing a few phrases,
Right.
it goes a long way.
It shows respect.
Shows respect. Yeah, you're making an effort.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's about immersing yourself
Immersing yourself
in the culture,
in the culture.
understanding the nuances,
Right.
and being open to
New ways of doing things.
new ways of doing things.
And the more you do that, the more you realize Kazakhstan isn't just a market.
Yeah.
It's this fascinating place with so much to offer.
So it's a journey as much as it is a
It is a journey of discovery.
business venture.
And for those who are willing to embrace the challenge, it can be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece we got to talk about.
Oh, okay. What's that?
The government.
Okay.
Their role in all of this.
Right.
The incentives they offer, the vision they have for Kazakhstan's future.
Sounds like a perfect segue
I think so.
into the final part of our deep dive.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So we've talked about certification, logistics. We even got into the cultural side of things in Kazakhstan.
Human element,
Human element, yeah. So now it's time to kind of zoom out.
the big picture.
The big picture. Look at the role of the government.
Right, what do they do?
What are they doing
Because they play a huge role
in shaping?
in shaping the whole landscape.
Yeah, and my research mentioned this program, the Nurli Zol program. Can you tell me about that?
Nurli Zol, that means bright path.
Okay.
And it's basically a massive infrastructure plan.
Okay.
They're upgrading everything, transportation, energy, you name it.
So it's about modernizing.
Modernizing, making Kazakhstan competitive on a global scale.
And how does this help, a company that's trying to sell equipment there?
Well, first off, it makes it easier to get your equipment into the country,
Right.
to your site, but it goes beyond that.
So what else are they doing to attract foreign investors?
Okay, so they have these things called special economic zones,
Okay.
and these zones have all these perks, tax breaks, easier customs procedures,
Wow.
financial incentives, depending on the industry.
So it's like these
Hi,
hubs
Verbubs.
where companies can benefit,
They can set up shop.
and they're strategically located, right?
Oh, yeah, usually near resources, transportation corridors.
So Kazakhstan's really rolling out the red carpet,
They are. They're serious about this.
and there's a reason for that, right?
Of course. They see foreign companies as bringing more than just money. They bring technology, expertise, new ways of doing things.
It's that knowledge transfer.
Exactly. They want to boost their own industries,
Right.
create jobs, diversify the economy.
Because it's mutually beneficial.
It's a partnership.
Yeah, partnership.
And they're not just throwing money at it. They're also focused on innovation.
I saw that in my research, the technology parks, the incubators.
Yeah, venture capital funds. They're trying to create this whole ecosystem for startups
Right.
so new ideas can grow.
It's pretty cool how they're trying to jump into the future.
It is, while still, holding on to their traditional industries.
It's balance.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
Approach Kazakhstan with both optimism and realism.
Okay.
There are challenges, but the rewards are there.
It's not a quick win, but it's a long-term play.
Exactly. And as Kazakhstan grows and changes, those opportunities are just going to keep coming.
So it's not just about selling equipment.
Yeah.
It's about being part of something bigger.
It's about being part of their story.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to spark the next big innovation there.
It's a pretty inspiring thought.
I think so.
So Kazakhstan's industrial landscape.
It's a mix of opportunities and obstacles.
It's a journey. It's an adventure.
It is.
It's about adapting, learning, and ultimately succeeding together.
Couldn't have said it better myself.